Yeah. So next slide show. So this one. So this is the contents. What we will go through today. What is Docker? Difference between container and virtual machine in Docker architecture. Then how to install Docker on our system. We can put our hands down. I think so. I'll start from basic, then development workflow. Now we're talking about Docker. What is Docker? It's an open platform for developing, running, and shipping applications in a consistent manner. I think the major essence of Docker is this. Let me explain in the how it happens. You know, as a programmer, we have different systems and different operating systems. Let me put it like some of us might be using Mac, while some will be using Windows, and we have some that is using Linux. And at the same time, all of us with that different system, different operating system, wants to work on a particular project, on a single project. Now, how are we going to maintain a balance between someone that is using Windows operating system or someone that is using Linux? Yes, it will be a cost on the individual that is working or the company, which means the company must provide a system or might enforce that all the programmers should be using. I hope you can hear me.
Secondary school.
Yes, I can.
Yes, we can.
Okay, so that means the company might enforce that all of us must use a particular OS, and that's another skill entirely. Somebody that is very good in Windows might not be able to use Linux. Maybe the project wants to build this on Linux. So how will the person that is good with Windows who comes in? So that's the major essence of containerization. So just have that at the back of your mind that, okay, we are learning something that will allow you that, okay, if you are using Windows to build your project, okay, you can still run that project on a Linux system or on a Mac system. So that's it. So Docker also enables us to what? To separate our application from our infrastructure so you can deliver software quickly. So, and another point there is that, okay, if you are using Node latest version, let's say you are using Node version 16 to build your project, and unfortunately you copy that project to another system. Maybe that system did not even have Node at all, or maybe the version of that node is maybe version 9 or maybe version 16. So how will you run that your program or your application on that particular system? First, you have to maybe start installing the version of the node that you use. You have to make sure that you have the same package.json on that system. But to avoid that difficulties, to avoid that challenges, that's why we have Docker in such a way that Docker will not mind what version of the application you are using, and it won't mind whether you are using Node or you are using ASP or you are using Python. The only thing is that it will allow you to run the program successfully and it will work fine. Then again, Docker enables you to what? To manage your infrastructure in the same way you manage it on your what? On your application. Then I think having a particular challenge is now that, okay, you design an application, it works fine on your system, but unfortunately, maybe the client you are sending that particular program application to is using another system is that client is using another system entirely, maybe different configuration. So if you don't deploy it through Docker, that means there might be a source of challenges. challenges that maybe at the client side, it might not work, but on my own system, it works. Sometimes the client will be shouting, what you push, what you send, it's not working. So how are you going to balance that? So you are going to balance that by the help of what? Help of Docker. And you can find more details from the link. Yeah, from the link we are seeing below, docs.docker.com. I don't know if we have any question based on that. Or do we understand what I just explained? Should I move on?
Yeah, you can
Yes,
move on.
yes, move on.
Okay. So, okay. Now, this how it works. Like I've said earlier, on your system, you are using your application, you are using Node 4, then you are using MongoDB. So by so doing, you can deploy that same application package. You can deploy it to both Windows machine, you can deploy it to Mac machine, you can deploy it to Linux machine, and it will work perfectly. It will surely work perfectly. But if you don't deploy your application on Docker, maybe you just design it on your normal system, then you should know that if you are using Windows, you can, like most of our application, the Windows application, you can't use it on Linux application. Neither can you use it on what? On Mac application. That means you have to go and look for another specific file that will work with those what? With those operating system. But with the help of Docker, then you can do what? You can work across each platform, be it Windows, be it Mac, or be it what? Linux, or any OS that you are using. Same thing here. So Linux, then you have data center, then you can push it to your what? To the cloud. Let me ask this question. Can anybody tell us, or maybe just put it in the chat box, why sometimes when your application will work fine on your machine, development machine, and it won't work on other machine? Did anybody have idea? While on my system, the application, the web I'm designing, it will work perfectly well, and on another system, it won't work. What can be the major cause of that? Who want to share ideas? Okay. So, which is a different environment. Good. Any other apart from Uche? Okay. Yeah, that means we get the point. Yeah. Okay. 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 I think that's fine. I think we quite understand what Docker is all about, because the major reason why it will work on your system and might not work on another system, we have several reasons for that. But let me just mention like three, like what you guys have mentioned here. If one or more files are missing during deployment, a situation when your application is not what? Fully deployed. Let's assume, but in the medium of maybe you are copying or transferring from using different platform, maybe cloud storage, or you are using your hardware or flash. you did not copy it well, or one particular file is missing. I don't know whether you've experienced where you will copy a particular file, and on another person's system, maybe there's one bad antivirus there. You just see that it has deleted some files, and before you know it, that program will not work fine. So that can easily cause the application not to run on another system. And again, when you're talking about software version, software version can cause a problem. Even it can cause a problem with Docker. If you are installing a Docker on your system and maybe your window is not up to date, there might be some challenges during the course of deployment. And if the version of the application you are using is not the same thing of another person's machine, then there can still be a problem. Then when another important one is the configuration. If you have different configuration settings, if your configuration does not work tally, then there might be a problem. With Docker, we can easily package all our applications and run it anywhere. So with the help of Docker, all these challenges we will be able to overcome it and run our application successfully. So now, when we're talking about container versus virtual machine, I know most of us have heard of virtual machine. I think my first experience with virtual machine is 2010. I could remember when Oracle released Oracle 11G. Oracle 11G works fine on Linux. I think that should be Red Hat. Most systems then works with Windows. We train with Windows, so we have to install a virtual machine on our system in order to install a Linux. So what is virtual machine? What's the difference between virtual machine and container? Why is container very, very important? Or what's the advantages of container over virtual machine? But if you understand virtual machine and container, I think we've explained much on container, then we're able to know which one to use, which one works fine for you, which one is the best, and we're able to move on. Like if you look at it here, it is virtual machine, it is an abstraction of machine physical hardware, which means you can run several virtual machines. On a Mac OS, you can also have two virtual machines running Windows and Linux using a tool called hypervisor. Hypervisor are software used to create and manage virtual machines. And when you're talking about virtual machine, what it means is that, like my system now is Windows machine. Now I want to run an application, maybe another operating system. Is that Linux or maybe Mac or any other operating system? The first thing I'll do is that I will install virtual machine on that Windows operating system. The virtual machine will stay on that Windows operating system. Then from that virtual machine, I will now install another OS, any OS that I want to use, be it Linux or any, on that virtual machine. So before I can on my virtual machine, I have to open my initial OS, that's my primary OS, which is Windows. Then I'll on my virtual machine, then go directly to another operating system I installed on the virtual machine. So with the help of with the help of hypervisor. So, and there are three major ones. We have VirtualBox, we have VMware, then we have Hyper-V. You can have multiple virtual machines on your system. You can have multiple virtual machines. You can have as many as you want on your system. Then VirtualBox and VMware are cross-platform. They can run on any OS, while Hyper-V run majorly on on Windows. Now, if you are talking about benefit of running virtual machine, We can run application in isolation inside virtual machine. Then another one is the same physical machine. We can have two different on the same physical machine. I think this should be on the same physical machine. We can have two different virtual machines, each running complete different application. So that's what I'm saying. If you are using Linux, then you can also install a Windows operating system on that Linux with the help of the virtual machine. I hope we get the point. Hello.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, we should.
So I think this is a typical example of how it works. So on Mac, you can have Windows and you can also have what? Linux operating system. So here you can have a physical machine. After a physical, then you can install different virtual machine. You can install as many as you want. And inside each virtual machine, then you can now have your different application. So in application 1, you can have your Node version 4 and MongoDB version 3. While on the second application, you can have your Node or your ASP or your Python or whichever application you are using to design. So you can have it like that. So you can have as many as possible. Now let me ask this question. In such a situation like this, what do you think it can be the disadvantages of using virtual machine? From the explanation that you can have multiple virtual machines on your system, then all those virtual machines must stand on a particular OS, your primary OS. What did you think it can be the disadvantages of that?
Each virtual machine will be using resources from the host machine.
Okay, that's great. Any other? Okay. It depends on the host resources. Good. Yeah, it will take up space and most likely slow to boot. That's very true. Yeah, memory and storage issue. Yeah, so we are right. You know, as each virtual machine will be taken, you have to allocate space, both hardware and your memory space. You have to allocate space. So all they are chopping from your storage. So if care is not taken, your system will be very slow to boot and the likes. And with that's a terrible issue on its own. So now each virtual machine needs a what? A full-blown what? OS. So which means when you have, like, as we have this particular virtual machine 1, you have to install a full setup of another operating system. A full setup of another operating system in which that also will take space. And again, due to the full-blown OS, it is very slow to start. VM virtual machines are resources intensive because each resource takes an actual size on the physical hardware. So which means if you don't have a very good storage, to use a virtual machine will be very, very difficult. And in which most of us are still struggling to use maybe 8 gig RAM, our hard disk, 500 and the likes. And if you are installing virtual machine on those systems, you are just killing the system gradually. So then container, though we've discussed about container, just for a brief reminder, It's an isolated environment from running multiple applications, almost the same thing, that are more lightweight, that don't really need a full operating system. So that's the major difference between a container and a virtual machine. A container, you don't need to install an operating system. It will work fine on your on the operating system you are using. So there's no need to do an installation of an operating system. All containers on a single machine share the same operating system of the host. Due to that fact, the containers start up quickly with less hardware resources. On a single host, you can run as many containers as possible. I hope we get that.
Yes.
Okay. Now, we are talking about Docker architecture. We're talking about Docker architecture. It's a client server architecture. A client component communicates to a server component using REST API. Then the server is called Docker engine. Okay, a container is just a process and did not contain a full-blown operating system, which I've explained that before. And it's a container uses the kernel of an operating system. A kernels manage application and hardware resources like memories and CPU. Okay, let me briefly explain. When we're talking about a container uses the kernel. Each operating system has a kernel. What's the importance of this kernel? Kernel comes with each operating system in order to manage our applications and hardware. And that's the major reason why you can't take a Windows application down to a Mac system. You can use maybe our Android phone. You can't just pick an Android application to a window phone because they have separate kernel, so they can't work on each other. So every operating system has its own kernel that are different, and the good aspect of it is that Linux machine can only run Linux container. So Windows machine, that's why if you want to download any installation or any software, they will ask you which operating system are you using, so that you can download something that is compatible with your operating system. But unfortunately, Windows machine can run both Windows and Linux container, because Windows has a built-in custom Linux container. The Windows comes with a custom Linux kernel. So you can run both Linux container and Windows container on a Windows system, but you can run a Windows container on a Linux system. But Mac machine has a different kernel that does not support container. I don't know whether they've updated that, whether you can run it directly. Yes, you have to install a Linux VMware, a Linux virtual machine on the Mac before you can now run the Docker container on Mac system, because that's how Mac is structured. So I don't know if we have any question on that. So I believe I can move on. I believe we all understand what I just explained.
Yes. So I have a question though. Sorry.
Okay.
It's regarding Docker in general. So just like VM virtual machines, what determines the speed of a virtual machine is your own computer's host resources, right? Your RAM and the resources allocated to it. So what determines how fast like this Docker engine, because it's replacing the VMware. So what determines I don't know how to say it, how fast whatever the response or the speed, or is it just internet, or it's just the speed of this container?
Okay, so that's a question. That's what determines the speed of a container or of a Docker engine on your system. So
Yeah.
what determines that? Your memory to determines that your system memory. If your system memory is not on the high side, you might find it difficult to run a container on your system. So your system, your physical operating system determines the speed. Likewise, the internet connection so determines how fast it will load. I hope you get that.
Yeah, I do. Thanks. Yeah.
It's just that you are not distributing a specific, you are not allocating a specific memory size to a
Yeah, for
container.
it
But
uses.
for VMware, you have to allocate a specific size for each particular VMware you're having on your system. But
All right.
your container will use the same, it will just share part of your what of your size, as like if you installed, even be as simple as light as Visual Studio Code, it will tell you the size it consumed from your what from your system. Likewise, the container, if you install it to, it will also share a little, but not that we allocate a specific amount of size to that particular container.
All right, understood. Thanks.
Okay. Do you have any question before we move further? Okay. So let's now to download a Docker file. We can set up. We can move. We can go to this particular site. That's docs.docker.com. Get Docker, and from there we're able to. I think let's go there. So from there you can decide which of the which operating system you are using, and you can easily download. Like from my side here, I'm using Windows. So you click on Windows and it will start downloading. I already have it on my system. Yeah, I already have it on my system. So from there, I'm coming, yeah, I have it here. You can now click and run the application. So I don't know, we have to try that. There's no need to run again. Yeah, but unfortunately, I won't be able to share what I've, because I don't know what really occurred because of the day, and the Docker stopped working, and I've been troubleshooting it. I think it takes a time, but I will join with another system now so that I can share some. Yeah. So from there, you can easily download. You can download the Docker application and install it and follow the right process. Or maybe I don't know. Maybe we should install. I should reinstall so that we can all see. But that might take our time. that might take some time. But I want to believe that that's one of the exercises we're going to do today to install Docker application on your system, be it Linux, Windows, or Mac. So let's install. Yeah, I think this the problem I'm really having at the moment. I'm coming. So let's install. Let's try and what? Let's try and install this on our what? On our system. And if we're having any error or challenges, then you can reach out to me. I think most of the major challenges you might be facing, like the one I'm facing now, the only issue I'm having is that I don't want to update my Windows to the latest version. If you are using Windows and is maybe the version you are using is the old one, and you are downloading a recent Docker application, it might not work. It might give you some kind of challenges. So what you necessarily need is to check the uh, what you necessarily need is to check your system configuration, whether you can install successfully or not. You check your system configuration. And another thing that is very important for you to check is whether your system has enabled visualization. Let me check for me. I think that's the major issue I'm having with this my current system. It does not enable visualization. So I have to use a visualization system. From your performance, you will see here that whether your visualization is enabled. If it is enabled, then it will work fine. But if it is disabled, then there might be a particular problem. So I will have to switch to another system to install that. Maybe we now arrange for another 30 minutes for better explanation on how to use that. But I will explain some basic things you can do. So if your system also is something like this, then you might have problem too. Then for those, if you want to check your system configuration, you just have to right click here and you can you can use search for system information. Then that will also what help us to know your system configuration and see whether it meet up with Docker setup or not. And if it does not meet up, then we'll see if it's possible to upgrade it or to just download some certain files for it to work. But pending the time, let's move on. For those that are installing, I want to know before the end of today, I want to know those that were able to install successfully. So by so doing, we know how far we can go. So it's just normal setup. It's not difficult to install. It's just normal how we install our application normally. So, but if those what I explained are in order, it will work perfectly. But if they are not, then there might be a challenge or a problem. Yeah. Now, so how does it work when we install our Dockers? When we install our Dockers on the system, how does it work? So that's what I want to explain now. Okay. So let's assume I opened a new file and a new Docker file. I'm using Visual Studio Code. I don't know which you are using, either Sublime and the likes. Okay. Yeah, so I'm using my Visual Studio Code here. Like I can have my first file, which is application.js. And from there, you can have, let's assume I want to console.log. Okay. So to incorporate Docker file into a file, you just have to have create another file with capital D, Docker, then file. You don't need to add any extension. If you look at what happened here, you see that the symbol has changed. So there's no need to add any extension. And when we have something like that, so you can easily run your Docker code. Now, this Docker file is like those that I don't know how many of us are used to Node or Express. You know, in Node, there's what we call packet.json, that you have all your setups, your npms and the likes. So likewise, that's what we have in Docker. Docker file will contain all the process, all the application you use, how you want it to be run, and which application you want to deploy to what, to Docker. I don't know if anybody also have experience with Firebase. You know, Firebase, after you've designed your application, you have to call for Firebase file to copy all those applications inside the Firebase folder before you can push. After you push, that's when it works successfully. Likewise, Docker. This Docker file must be inside your project. That's when it will run on a Docker application. And again, your Docker installation must be working, must be running. If it's running, you will see the symbol will be here. Mine is not, because mine is not, but you will see the symbol here. It will pop up here too, that it's like something like MySQL. So the symbol will pop up too, and from there you can easily run your Docker file. So what should be inside our Docker file to deploy a basic project? What should be inside our Docker file? I think I have one here, for example. Yeah. Okay. Inside the Docker file, you have something like form, copied, work directory, and CMD. I think that's the problem I've been facing with this. Yeah, I think I've been seen something like this symbol must show. That's when it will tell you that Docker is working, it's running on your system. If you don't see this symbol, or this symbol is red, that means it's not working. So that's it. And if it's like, if you look at all these pointing dots, that shows that it wants to run, but something is delaying it to run. So until when this point is stable, that's when it's running successfully. If it's not stable, then something is happening, it's wrong somewhere. Yeah. So we have our from. Our from is just like when you are importing from, when I don't know if we have used React or Python or Node before, and you are importing all these modules from like imports what was this Python applications if you are importing them. So likewise, this form is an extension. If you are using Node, you use Node. If it is Linux too, you can easily use what? You use Linux, and it surely gives you, it will gives you the extension. If you use Linux, then all the extension that comes with what? With Linux will be attached to it. And if it is Node too, we have Node. So from there, you can have your apply. So what I'm using here, you can easily get it from the site. You can easily, simple application, you can easily get it from the Docker site, and they will surely direct on what to use. Like we have it here, we have from, then we have what? Work directory, we have copy, we have from, then we have CMD. So we have that as what? As that's what will be on what? On our Docker file. So the form is just which application are you using? Like we are using Node, so that's why we have Node 12 app Alpine. Then we have run. This run, there's no need to have double run there. You can have a single run, like what I have here. Like what you can have a single run, and that single run is just like when you have your stats in Node.js, that okay, you want to use, if it is yarn or if it is npm. If it is npm, then your file location is it app.js, or if you have a specific location, then you put it there. Then the CMD, this run and the CMD almost perform the same function, and that's why I omitted it initially. Now you can also omit the work directory. Let's assume you can apply the work directory here. It will still work fine if you don't apply this work directory. But instead of us to be repeating this same app, then so far it is inside the what? It is inside the app directory. That's why we have what? We have our work directory app. So there's no need to be adding it to our file again. There's no need to be adding it to our file. We just run the file directly, whether Node, app.js, or whichever application you are using. And do you have any question based on that? Do you have any question? Do you have any?
No.
Do you have any question?
No, not at all.
I'm so sorry. I know it will look somehow to some of us that are just writing code, due to I would have loved to share. Come in. Yeah, I would have loved to share it so that we can see how it really works. Okay. Yeah. Let me see if I can join with that system here. Okay. But let's move on. So now when you have your application, then you have our what? Our Docker file. So is that after our Docker, that's our Docker file will now comprise, we want now structure the application as what? As images. You know, it's just like when you typed your CV on Microsoft Word and you turn it to PDF. I think what that will do is that if it is a Microsoft Word, if you take it to another system, there might be some changes due to that particular system setup. But immediately you change it to PDF, anywhere you take it to, it still remains the same. Whether the person is using Word 2003 or 16 or 13, that won't differ. That won't tamper with that PDF file. So that's what the Docker file tool will do. Immediately you add your Docker file, then we build your application, and after you build your application, you turn it to what? To an image. After turning it to an image, yeah, this is the second point said, turn it to an image. So from there, from our development system, you can now push it to what? To the registry. Registry will help us store it, and after storing it, you can now use any other system to do what? To test your application without minding which operating system you are using or which OS you are using. Now, to have a registry, you have to create an account with Docker. You have to have an account with Docker to have what? To have your ID. To have your ID. So let me see. Okay. So if I log out, so you can easily create your own account. You go to hub.docker.com. When you go to hub.docker.com, from there you can, I think I'll just sign out. Yeah. Okay. Okay, maybe you can try from your end. I want to redo it here, but you create your ID. It's just a simple normal of creating and setting up an account with any email or any site. So you create your ID, then you create your ID, then you create your user, your password, then your email. From your email, you have to confirm. You have to verify your email before you can start using it. I hope we get that. Our time is fast spent, so I don't know. I think I've joined with another system that Docker is working fine on it. I don't know if I can. There's still time on our side to share. Oh, we've run out of time. That means I will look for a moment, like 30 minutes, to discuss that. I would have loved to show us how it works. Then that will be fine.
Is it your boss?
Hello?
Is it your boss company?
What did you say? I can't hear you.
Okay.
I don't know. is saying something, or is it she? Okay, Fatima, that should be she. Okay, let's move on. So now the next thing for us to do after you've created your account with Docker and you have your Docker file in your application that contains from API. I think you can easily get that from their website. It's just that you have, when you read through, then it's self-explanatory. You can easily run that. Yeah, it's self-explanatory. You can even copy what they have and put it there. But you should take note that with this their CMD, where they have app.src, then in index.js. Like for my own now, let's assume I copy this and I comes to my code, or let me use the blank one, and I put it here. So instead of having node app src index, what should I have, or what should be there? Can anybody tell us what should be there? You know, this is my own application and I'm copying this. So what should be inside my CMD?
app.js.
Good app.js, yeah.
Yeah, it will be app.js. So all these app/cmd won't be what? Won't be there again. It will just be what? App.js, and it will run fine. I hope you get it. And the major reason is that all this means that there are different directories, different folder. It's just like if I have a folder from here, which is what? App folder, and inside the app folder, I have what? I have my what? src, and inside the what? src, that's where I have what? My index.js for those that have not been writing code using Visual Studio, the likes before. So that's the major reason why we have this app src and what? Index.js. But if yours is not like that, let's assume yours is what? SCR. That means here too will be what? Will be LCR. So after you've done this, the next thing you will go is you go back to your, you can open your command prompt, or like someone like me that is using git bash. So if I come here, I can now run Docker Docker build. Then I give it a tag name. So it can be --- tag or a single -t. Then the tag name. So let's assume I'm using testing Docker. It must all be in what? In small cap. Then I give it my period. If your Docker is installed and is functioning properly, immediately you press enter, it will run the what? It will run the application, it will build the application for us and turn it to image. Immediately you press enter, it will surely build the application for us and turn it to what? To image. But because it's not running on my system, that's why I'm having this kind of error. So if you're having that error too, that means something is wrong somewhere, in which we have to correct that. So it will turn it to image, and by turning it to image, you can run it on any system. You know, previously we have accounts. So anybody that have that that have accounts with Docker can easily run that application. So you can deploy that particular application to any. You can deploy that application to that particular link. It's just the link that you'll be sending, and they will be clicking on it and run it. But with the fact that that particular system also has Docker running on it. So if Docker is running on it, then the application will run fine on it, no matter whether you are using Windows or Mac or Linux. So that's that. So in order, if you want to build Docker, I think that will be an exercise for us. That will be an exercise for us, that we should build a very simple application, just a simple application, hello world, or maybe an input file. I don't know how good you are at programming. So just write a simple application, then follow the steps I explained. I think later today I will send some file for us, and the videos that we asked to watch. If you watch those steps, then we're able to do what? We're able to follow, and we understand this better. Any questions so far? Do you have any question? I hope we understand what I've explained.
Oh, sorry, I have a question. I don't know where you get the JS stuff from. I was actually kind of carried away. I was trying to install my Docker, so I lost it from that after Docker installation.
You don't do what?
Okay, like I was actually following you, by along the way I kind of lost it because I was carried away trying to install my Docker. But from you're talking about Docker build and all that, I can see your. So I was actually lost from there. Could you please kind of explain more?
Okay. So like what she asked, where I use Docker build, isn't it?
Yeah. So after my installation, what's the next step?
Okay, after your installation, that which of the application are you using for design? Is it Visual Studio or Sublime, or which application are you using? Or Python?
Visual Studio.
Visual Studio. Okay, Visual Studio. Then you create your normal application the way you usually do. Like what I just did here is that I created my app.js. If you create your normal application, if you are designing React, you create your normal React application. If you are using Vue, you create your normal Vue application. And if it is just a simple HTML file too, you can have your app.html or anything that you have. So what's next? What you need to do now is to create a Docker file. Docker file does not need to have any extension. When you create your Docker file, so what should be inside your Docker file, you can easily get it from their site. So from I'm coming. So you can easily get it from here. So this is it. You copied it. After you copy it, you come back to your Docker file and paste it here. So the major things you have to change is your CMD. Your CMD, which should be Node, then it depends on your directory that will be here. Like initially, my directory is app.js. So you have to use your app.js. But if your directory is, maybe you've created different folders for different files, then you can link it up. It depends on how your directory looks like. So after that, you can now open your CMD. I'm coming. you can open your CMD, and if you have your Git bash, you can open your Git bash too and run it as administrator. So, oh, okay, wow. Let me run. I think something is funny. So as I have my user, then you link it up to the directory at which your file is. So my directory, if I want to open now, I have to document, which is quite long, document slash, I think I have web. Let me see what I have here. So I'm only wasting my time here. So this is my directory. Yeah. See, it works. So I have this. Okay, so I'm inside my directory. So after that, then you can now run your Docker build -t tag. Then you can now give it any tag name. So that's what we'll be using to trace your your image file. So and you press you press enter. If your Docker is running its function, if you are able to install it successfully, then it will run and it will create the path for you. I hope you get that. Hello, I hope you get the explanation where you are lost.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I did. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So do we still have any questions so that I can call it a day today? And I will discuss with the organizer and see how far we can go so that we can have a full practical of it. But before that time, our major assignment is to create a simple application and deploy it with our Docker file. We create our image and deploy it as simple as it can be. There's no need to start with complex application. Let's start with what simple application. After we get that, then we can now move on to the complex one. But by that time, my system will have been set up successfully. I hope we get that. That will be our major work, and I want feedback. As we are doing, I don't know how many have been able to install successfully. If you've been able to install successfully, maybe you can raise your hands up. Let me see. Without any challenges. Okay, we're having 3 hands up. 4. Wow, that's great. That's lovely. Did you try wow, that's lovely. That's lovely. So which means we can go ahead and try what we just learned today and see how far we can go. So if you have any issue, any challenges, you can easily communicate me through this Slack channel or any other medium. And again, this is their site. You can go through it, just go through it. Like we have simple application and do step by step. If you want to update application, what's next? And the video that was sent to you, to watch it fully too. I think you will get it perfectly. So thank you guys for your time. So far, there's no question. If you have any question, you can raise it, but if there is none, I think for today we are good to go.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks very
Thank you.
Yeah, you are welcome.
All right, Famusa, thank you so much for this session. That's going to be for today. Since no one has any further questions. Yeah, so if you have any other thing, you can always drop me a message on the Slack channel. And this I will keep it up on there. So yeah, we keep all other information on the Slack channel as well. And if you need anything, you can always reach out to me. So thank you.